Those are the only teams where you should be using Ineffa. This video will be a team guide for Ineffa, where I'll explain what she needs on a team, what she does provide on a team and her value, and then finally I'll give you possible teammates and team options where she works best. Before you do that though, if you're trying to get Ineffa or her constellations, I'd recommend checking out LD Shop. It's a cheap, fast, and secure top-up website where you can buy different games currencies including Genshin Impact 20% cheaper or more. Check it out in the link in the description or the pinned comment. But yeah, back to Ineffa's teams. First of all, I'm gonna list what does she provide on the team. Ineffa in general is gonna be an Electro sub DPS with a lot more utility than your average Electro sub DPS. The first thing is obviously that she's gonna deal off-field Electro damage. So using her ult, she's gonna be applying Electro and dealing Electro damage while she's off-field. That's normal. The second thing is that when she's on your team, all of your electrocharged reactions are gonna be transformed into lunar charged, which basically means they're gonna get stronger and they're gonna scale with Ineffa's crit and stuff like that, which is pretty good. She's gonna be able to provide the whole new reaction, and she's gonna be the only one who can enable it at this point in the game right now. So that's the second thing she provides. The third thing is that she provides you with a shield from her elemental skill, obviously, or if you have her C2, I think you can do it with your elemental burst. And then finally, she's gonna provide you with an elemental mastery buff. Lunar charge is gonna scale with Ineffa's crit, and then the elemental mastery of the second character, the Hydro applicator. So that means the elemental mastery of your second character is gonna be a low important too. That means Ineffa buffing it is gonna provide a lot more damage, which is pretty good. So this is what she provides on the team. Now moving on what she needs on the team. So she's gonna be an off-field Electro. She's not the main DPS on the team. So the team is mainly not gonna be built around her. It's gonna be built around like the main DPS or maybe another character on the team in general. But there are a few key things that she's gonna need for her to function at a good, value. The first thing is that she's gonna need the Hydra on the team, whether he's on field or off field, it doesn't matter, but she's gonna need consistent Hydra application. You can have an on-field driver that's gonna be like using his auto attacks or something like that to apply Hydro, or you can have an off-field Hydra applicator like Shao, for example, or whatever that can apply Hydra off-field. It doesn't matter. All you need is that a consistent Hydra source, because she's Electro, and then you'll need a Hydra for you to trigger the electrocharged reaction and then turn it into lunar charged. The second thing is that she needs an on-field driver, whether they're Electro or Hydro. Obviously, as I said before, they can be Hydro and then just apply Hydro, or they can also be Electro, since if they do Electro, the Hydro aura is gonna apply too. So it doesn't matter, but you need either an Electro or Hydro on the team, like on the field as a main on-field driver. They can be the main DPS and then Ineffa can be a support, or they can just be a driver for Ineffa. It doesn't matter. And then finally, the last thing, which is optimal, you might want another Electro on the team if you didn't use one on field. You can use an off-field Electro like Fischl, for example, or whatever, for you to have the Electro resonance, which is always good with Ineffa, or help her out with energy a little bit, even though she doesn't need it that much. But in general, it can be bad to have one. So yeah, those are really the only things that she's gonna need, which is quite a bit for a sub DPS. Honestly, you might need to build around her a little bit, but you don't need to build a full team around her. There's just a few key things that you need, and I list them right now. Those requirements are usually going to lead you towards electrocharged teams, with some exceptions that I'm also going to list in a little bit. But yeah, now moving on to her team examples and team types. As I said before, it's mainly going to be electrocharged teams, but these teams can vary a little bit too. The first type of teams is that you might want to use just a Hydro hyper carry on your team, where you build the team around him. In that case, it's mainly going to be Neuvillette. He's still going to be the main DPS of the team, and you'd want his usual supports like Fiorina, for example, and then Kazuha. Those are just a usual Neuvillette team. And then you just can add Ineffa. With adding Ineffa, she can provide you with extra off-field damage, which is pretty good. And then she can trigger her reaction, the lunar charged, because obviously Neuvillette is going to be applying Hydro consistently. Also, Fiorina is going to be applying Hydro consistently, which is pretty good. And she can also provide a shield for Neuvillette, which is super good for resistance interruption and stuff like that. This is probably going to be like her main go-to team, in my opinion. It just syncs pretty well. Like, everyone on that team just can buff each other, and they can complement each other really well. Kazuha, for example, or Xiaolin can just buff the whole team with the resistance shred and elemental mastery and stuff like that. Ineffa can do the same with the elemental mastery buffs. The off-field electro application, the shield can protect Neuvillette, which is pretty good. Neuvillette is obviously going to be the one dealing damage and also applying Hydro. Fiorina is going to be doing the same and also buffing the whole team in general. So yeah, it's just going to be probably her best team in general where you can use her. Probably the most useful in my opinion. So yeah, sort of Neuvillette, hyper carry, electro charged, lunar charged team is probably going to be the main team for Ineffa. But there are other team options with the Hydra main DPSs that you can use. For example, you can use her with like Ayato or Child even. All of these are going to be viable teams. So for example, you can use Ayato and then let's say Ineffa and then Xingqiu and then Kazuha. That's going to be a pretty viable team with Ayato as a main driver on the team, as I said before. Ineffa is obviously Ineffa, and then you can use either a second Hydro for more Hydro application, like more consistent Hydro application, or you can use a second Electro, as I said before, like Fischl, for example, as a battery or for the resonance. And then finally, you can use it in Nemo. It's always pretty good, like Kazuha, for example, or whatever, any other buffers. That's also going to be a very viable team. Now, the difference is that Ayato is not going to be able to deal as much damage as Neviet, but for Ineffa, she's going to be pretty functional and fully usable in this team. She can provide her shield, give elemental mastery, and buff the rest of the team, and then have a lot of lunar charged reactions triggered, which is going to result in a lot of damage. So yeah, this is going to be a very viable team for her too. But you don't have to only use Hydra drivers on the field. You can also use Electro ones. Mainly, that's going to be either Raiden or Clarant. It's pretty much the same Neviet team, but you're replacing like the Hydra on fielder with an Electro one, which is going to be Raiden. So you can use like Raiden, Fiorina, and then Ineffa, and then let's say Shaolin or Kazuha or whatever. This is going to be a super good team too. Raiden is going to be on field applying Electro, and then Fiorina is going to be the one applying Hydro, and she's going to apply enough Hydro, that's for sure. Also with Raiden applying Electro, you can amplify the Hydro aura, so the Hydro is not going to be a problem. It's going to be enough, or at least close to enough, for you to trigger enough lunar charged reactions. And the exact same thing with Clarant. There's just going to be the on-fielders dealing damage, providing their utility. Raiden is going to be raising your energy and stuff like that. Fiorina is going to be buffing the whole team. Shaolin is obviously going to be buffing the whole team, and then Ineffa is doing her thing. So this is going to be the second main team for Ineffa, and it's going to provide a lot of, good DPS for sure. I don't think it's going to rival her main team that I listed before with Neviet. I think that's a problem with just the main DPS straight up. It's not a problem with Ineffa. Ineffa still works just the same with Neviet as with that team. It's just a difference between Neviet and then Raiden and Clarant and stuff like that. But for Ineffa, the team is just going to function the same. She's going to be doing the same amount of damage pretty much, which is pretty good. Now, those are like her main conventional teams, you can say. Those are the main teams you'd want to use that I would recommend using. But you can also use her outside of the box a little bit. For example, you can actually use her in like a team outside of electrocharge, like Aggravate even, or Quicken. Obviously, this is not going to be the best use for her. You're going to be wasting her potential, but you can still use her as like a normal electro applicator for an Aggravate team or Quicken or whatever. For example, you can use Keqing on field, and let's say Naida, and then Beiju, and then Ineffa. Now, again, you're not going to be doing your lunar charged reaction, but she can also provide you with a shield, which is super good. She can apply enough electro off field, and she can provide just enough electro damage without her lunar charge reaction. She can also buff the team with elemental mastery. So yeah, she's definitely going to be usable outside of her conventional electro charge teams. Obviously not as useful, so you're going to be wasting her potential a little bit, but those teams are definitely usable teams. If for example in the future you want to move her as just like an electro off field applicator and shielder, elemental mastery buffer, you can do that very easily, and she's going to be very usable and provide quite a bit of utility, which is super good. That's going to make her very versatile, and I like this about her. And then finally, the last type of team is usually just going to be an overvape team. This is also not particularly recommended. This is not going to be like her main use, but you can use her with a Pyro main DPS too. As long as you have like a Hydro, you can just slap in Ineffa and you're going to be just overvaping. Which is not fully optimal for these type of teams, but it's going to work pretty well. So you can use her with like Arlecchino, for example, or Yoimiya, and then you can add like Xingqiu or Yellen or whatever, and then you can just add Ineffa and Bennett. Those teams are going to perform pretty well with Arlecchino or Yoimiya being the on-fielders. The downside is that obviously the on-fielders are not going to be Hydro or Electro, so the auras are not going to be that present, but in general, Ineffa is still going to be able to provide electrocharged. If your Hydro applicator can apply enough Hydro, especially if you have like Yellen or Xingqiu or whatever, the Hydro aura is still going to be there, and you can usually electrocharge and do your lunar charge reaction with Ineffa when she hits. And yeah, she's just going to be providing extra electro damage and then more elemental mastery for your vape reactions, and then also providing you with a shield for resistance and stuff like that, which is pretty good. That's the good thing about Ineffa. She has a lot of versatile utility, so even if you're not able to fully use it in some teams, you can usually just still get value out of her just for the shield and then the off-field damage. And these type of teams are not going to be optimal for the main DPSs. You can probably do better, but Ineffa here is being utilized fully. She's going to be providing elemental mastery, she's going to be pretty useful, providing the shield, providing extra electro damage, so she's being perfectly used. But yeah, tell me what teams are you guys going to be using in the comments. I'm pretty sure a lot of people are going to have some weird teams for her, so I want to hear them. If you guys leave a like, subscribe to the channel, I will see you guys next video. Peace.